podcast. We're all back. We're here. Where are you? We are the unauthorized source of fantasy information and entertainment and all kinds of goodies. And today I am joined with the whole crew here. We've got AJ Herschel, the kid. So he's back. And we also joined again, blessed with his presence. It's Jared! And I am Judah Buddha. Week 2 is in the bag. I want to hear from you guys. What are some thoughts? Let's start off with what do we do, AJ?
First word, last word.
First word, last. What is your first word coming out of the gate on week number 2? AJ Herschel, start with you.
All right. Just how I never kind of reaffirming my thing and how I trust about zero amount of waiver wire wide receivers after week 1 and 2, and how a lot of them picked up a ton of points in week 1 and then completely dropped off in week 2, which is just kind of reaffirming my belief that you got to wait it out and waiver wire pickups later, even though you can get some gems early, especially if they do pan out, but a lot of them don't.
No, some of them Ross.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me it's probably the opposite, because I was like, man, I should have picked up more of like Marquise Brown and like Ross. I'm not quite as, I guess really the guys would be Marquise Brown and the guy from Washington, McLaurin, whatever. Yeah, because those guys actually are doing pretty well, or did pretty well again in week 2.
Mecole Hardman.
Hardman, but that's like, man, that's a tough one to predict, because there's so, like, DeMarcus Robinson had so many, they both ate. Yeah. And I mean, in Kansas City's offense, that's a possibility, but like Sammy Watkins and Travis Kelce, like, I would not trust, like if I had to play Hardman or Robinson in week 3, I would, but that's kind of tough. But yeah, like Deshaun Jackson went down, so he's down for a couple of weeks. So hopefully
that was an injury. That was an ab. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, hopefully nobody used their waiver priority on him. But but I was glad. So I mainly used my waiver priority wherever I could on. My first pick was always the Ravens tight end, Mark Andrews, and for the second straight week, he had like 8 catches and 100 yards and a touchdown. So like this guy looks like he's going to be putting up Kelce numbers this year. I mean, it's, very similar in that he's got a mobile quarterback who likes to throw to the tight end, and he's got that just big body. So yeah, I'm glad I did that, but I also wish I'd made more of an effort to get Brown, because Brown got a ton of targets. Like it wasn't just like a couple of bomb plays or anything. Like overall, his numbers weren't really that good, but he got a ton of targets. So,
and that last pass, speaking of bomb, like that last over the shoulder fade, it was like a 72-yard pass right on target. Do you remember? Did you guys see the game?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it was beautiful. Like I never expected Jackson to make such a beautiful pass. Like I just always thought of him as like a running guy. I got him mostly for his running ability.
Well, see, I got to go back and find this podcast. It's on. I don't know if I ever actually even published it on my YouTube stream, but I did a podcast with one of my old sports writers prior to the draft in 2018. Nice. And I think on there, I've got to go back and check to make sure I've got it, but I said that Lamar Jackson will be a better NFL quarterback than Baker Mayfield.
Wow.
Well, you were right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You were right.
But said that Josh Rosen would be the best out of all of them, and that's not.
You were wrong.
but
no. Here's the thing. I don't think, like, people are assuming because they're not using Josh Rosen that he's crap. But the truth is, I think they're just they're just telling him, look, hold off. we'll develop you this year. We're just tanking. We're going to get all these first round picks. Next year, I don't think they're going to use the picks on the quarterback.
They'll take a quarterback.
You think so?
They will. They'll take a quarterback, and it sucks for Rosen because he's either going to get the job of doing what Ryan Fitzpatrick has this year of taking the beating behind their crappy offensive line, or he's going to be on his third team in 3 years. So it was just the worst possible situation for him. They were talking about possibly him going. Some people had said maybe San Diego, or not San Diego, but LA. And that would have been really good, like to be able to sit behind Rivers and then be ready to step in maybe to an offense, that you've got a lot of weapons around you, if he goes down or retires, which is basically what's happened to Mason Rudolph in Pittsburgh. So, it really somehow Josh Rosen went to a worse situation, about the worst possible situation. Yeah. So
it's too bad for him. Unless maybe he just doesn't. He's no good. But the thing that I'm coming away with is never trust week one. Never trust week one. Week one is such an aberration. It's funny. Every single I won about half my games last week, and every single one I won, I lost big this week.
Ooh.
And everyone, but on the flip side, everyone I lost, I am 1-1. On all 15, 14 out of 15 of my leagues. So for better or for worse, I'm feeling pretty good. How are you guys feeling about your guys' teams?
I went 4-2 last week, and they went 2-4 this week. So what are you gonna do? I don't know. It's early. It's early. This always happens to me. So. Let's figure it out later down the line.
So you already know that I'm killing it through 2 weeks. my first week, I ended up 12-4-1. Somehow, these are all pro leagues with fractional points, and somehow I got a tie in fractional points. That's crazy. I thought I had won by a 1/10 of a point, and then when they had stat corrections, Chris Carson had a 0.1 stat correction, and so it ended up being a tie, which is so weird. That's only the third tie that I've ever had, and I think those other two, of course, were back before they introduced fractional points or whatever. So week one I went 12-4-1 in my 17 leagues. Wow. And I thought, man, that's nice. That's really good. I probably won't do as well this week. This week I went 16-1.
Oh, good. So good.
And I sent Judah the screen caps for the, I've got the receipts on it. And if I had made I made and in that league I lost, I made the wrong QB play and the wrong running back play. Otherwise I would have gone. If I'd have made the right one on either one of those, I would have went 17-0, which is
you even won. You won the league we're in where you lost. You played somebody who.
Yeah. Oh, I think I started Roethlisberger.
Yes. That's right. That's what it was. You started Big Ben.
Yeah, I started Big Ben, but
you picked up. The Patriots.
The Patriot defense, which gave me, I had those in 7. So that's what happened. So I had the Patriot defense in 7 of my 17 leagues. And then 3 others I was playing against Breeze. My opponent had Breeze, and he, so he went down. And it was just that'll, probably in my life never happen again. It was just kind of the perfect storm of circumstances. So I feel I'm in good shape after 2 weeks.
Nice.
That's awesome. Nice. Well, we've already sort of teased it though, as we probably need to say a little something. I just want to get your guys' reaction, get your guys' thoughts. I've already talked to maybe both of you. No, probably just you, Jared, but about your thoughts on losing Big Ben, losing Breeze, and actually now the quarterback switch in for the New York Giants. Where are we at? This is, I was telling Jared before you got on, AJ, this is a new NFL after the week 2. We're looking at a different, I heard somebody talking about it earlier. They said, if you had to choose, who would be the top 5 the top five teams in the league, and it's hard to get a full five. But but after that five, even if you get five, it's like after that five, it's like
yeah.
There's five decent teams. Like there's about 3 or 4 very good teams, 5 decent teams, and then it's like a crapshoot.
Yeah.
But so let's start with Big Ben. What are your thoughts? Let's go to you, Jared. What are your thoughts on losing Big Ben for the season? Maybe we've seen the last of him play.
Well, selfishly, my thoughts are centered on how it affects my fantasy players. So I've got Juju in, I don't know, like 4 leagues, and I've got James Conner, I think, in like 4 leagues. So it's not like it's not insane, but that's about 25% of my leagues. So man, I don't know though. After like the way he was playing, I'm hoping that maybe Mason Rudolph can kind of keep that offense going. Yeah, it's funny though, because like every year I would stream. A lot of times I would wait until the end of the draft, and I would get Ben Roethlisberger and another quarterback, and I would play Ben in all of his home starts because he was just
at home. He's good.
At home, he would get like 20 touchdowns for the season at home. Like if you projected out over, if he had done the same thing on the road, he would have had like 40 touchdowns each season. And so he was just always money at home.
I think I saw a stat. He got 20. What is it? I think he averaged 20 fantasy points on the road, 28 at home.
Yeah, I believe it.
That's a touchdown more every
more. So really, it's like because touchdowns are only 4 points. Quarterback, so it's like 2 touchdowns. Yeah, but so I kind of hated to see him go. Like I wasn't relying on him as quarterback this year, knowing Antonio Brown was going to be going down. But even after that Patriots game, I was like, they'll be fine. Like he won't put up the numbers that he has before, but they always play poorly against the Patriots, especially in Foxborough. It'll take a little while for these receivers, but they'll be fine. They'll be fine. And then he did nothing against the Steelers, and then he got hurt. So so I don't know. I mean, it depends on what Mason Rudolph does. Like if Mason Rudolph comes in and plays well, they're not going back to Big Ben. They're moving on with their future, which is kind of weird, because somebody was I saw a meme on the internet today talking about how basically Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell are the Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook, the Oklahoma City Thunder of the NFL, where you get these 3 superstars and they win nothing together.
Yeah.
So as far as Ben goes, that's he's won 2 Super Bowls. He's had a good career. Kind of fitting maybe that he and Eli Manning maybe go out at roughly the same time. And I just hope that Juju Smith and James Conner can still produce.
I'm sure you have similar sentiments, AJ. What do you say?
This oh man, this kind of hurts. I really worry about how well Mason Rudolph is just going to carry Pittsburgh's offense. Really kind of just reiterating what you were saying, Jared. It's really just all depends on how well he does coming up in the rest of the season. They've got San Francisco next week and then Cincinnati. So he's got a couple easier defenses to play before he gets into the really hard ones. I wouldn't say not Cincinnati. Cincinnati, easy on the easier side. San Francisco's got a good defense, but definitely not Cincinnati. Compared to a lot of the other teams out there, I think it's a better start because after that they're going to have to hit Baltimore and the Chargers, which are going to be really difficult for him. So I worry. I think this could help Vance McDonald's stock a lot because he caught both of his touchdowns from Mason Rudolph. But for Schuster, for Conner, it just worries me.
Yeah.
Well, Conner was. I agree with you guys to an extent. The thing that I am looking at most, and I don't know. This has been my worry from the beginning is who's going to be the number 2 to Schuster, because he was an awesome number 2. And even when when Antonio Brown was out for a little bit, he shined. But it helped. It always helped to have a supporting cast. And Moncrief has been the worst. The worst. He's been terrible. Yeah. I got sick to my stomach watching that game. I mean, he dropped so many important balls. Anyways, I think they're moving on from him. So the question is, and now there should be some kind of chemistry between Washington and Rudolph, because they played together in the preseason. There might be some other connection, but but I that's not something you can really hang your hat. Oh, they have a magical connection, you know. Like if James Washington can't hold it together, I still have hope that maybe somebody, because typically the Steelers are good at developing wide receivers, and maybe so for fantasy, I'm looking at Ryan Switzer. I picked him up in a deep league because I just had no other options. Like maybe, you know, there's also Johnny Holton. Deontay. I picked up Deontay Johnson in another league, just kind of hoping that one of these guys flowers into the next Juju. You know, we need somebody to be that person. Like, who's this Juju guy? You know, who's this Deontay Johnson guy? Oh, wow. You know, like, this is what my hope. But I would have been much more hopeful with a healthy Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah. But on the other hand, Mason Rudolph had some of the best. I would say so. Like I went back and looked, and he had some of the best commentary coming into the league. A lot of people had him really high on their draft board, and he did. He went like second round, I think.
Yeah, I think I want to say he ended up maybe slipping to like
third.
Third.
He was third.
But yeah, originally there was talk that he could have gone at like the bottom of the first round.
Oh yeah,
and
he ended up slipping for a specific reason. I heard somebody talking about it. There was something that I can't remember, but he ended up being a steal for the Steelers.
Well, and you got to think like they. And maybe this was just them being unrealistic about this season and just a bad game plan on their part. But they traded away their first round pick to the Dolphins the other night to get Minkah Fitzpatrick, the safety. So you think about that, like, I mean, you're already 0-2 and you're on your backup quarterback. I mean, you could be looking at a top 10 pick this next year and maybe numerous quarterbacks coming in.
That's an important point. That's good. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't just idiots about it. You know, I mean, but I mean, if they're being smart about it, then, you know, maybe that's a sign that they are confident that Mason Rudolph can be their next quarterback. But you just never know. You never know what's going on internally. If you've got some owner that's like, no, you know, I'm old, I'm going to die soon, I need you to win, I need you to do whatever to try to win a Super Bowl this year, even if it's unrealistic. So we don't know, but that was very interesting that they traded away what has a pretty good chance to be a top 10 pick, for a safety instead of, hanging on to it and going after a quarterback.
It's very telling. Hey, did you check, AJ? Did you check any of that? Or are you in front of a computer?
Yeah, I'm in front of a computer right now.
Oh, I was gonna say, did you check see what round he went? I think
Mason Rudolph did go round 3. He was a projected second round pick and then just ended up slipping.
Does it say why there was? I
can't find any reason why.
All right. Well, we don't have much time, so I think that covers that. I think coming out of this conversation, I'm feeling a lot more hopeful. I think I was just naturally a little bit more superstitious about it because I'm like, of course, I have tons of juju, and of course, so I was sort of being extra pessimistic about it. I feel better about it. Good conversation. Okay, on to what about the Saints? I don't have a whole heck of a lot of Saints, but I have a Kamara share that is so important to me this year.
Ooh.
It's the league I want to win this the most. In my church league that I keep getting second place in.
Well, I think a lot of that hinges on what ends up being the situation with Breeze, because they said 6 weeks, and then they said, well, it's really going to go in. It's going to depend when they go in to do the surgery. They'll know more at that time. Teddy Bridgewater was at one time, I mean, not a good quarterback, but he was passable. It wasn't like he was just he was the starter for Minnesota when he had that horrible leg injury that I think, they thought could have like cost him his leg, because I think it, like ruptured an artery or something. And, so he worked.
I think it cost him his skill because he hasn't been the same.
Yeah, well, true. But I mean, we haven't really gotten to see, a whole lot from him. It is interesting that, the Saints have run all these little gadget plays with Taysom Hill. So, it'll be interesting to see like how that shakes out, if they try to incorporate him more or what. The fact that Breeze is supposed to be back, as of now at about the midpoint in the season, you may get 6 weeks of weaker stats, especially from Thomas. I think with Kamara, if Teddy Breeze can, or Teddy Bridgewater can just dump the ball off to him. I mean, Kamara is just, a freak at being able to, just zoom around and beat linebackers and stuff. So, but if Breeze ends up missing more time than that, like that could really kill Michael Thomas's numbers, especially, and Kamara's.
AJ, what say you?
I disagree a little bit. I think this is actually a little bit beneficial to Kamara, because Drew Brees, one of the things he's really good at is spreading around the ball. And yes, he has his favorite target in Michael Thomas, but he does run a very efficient offense. And my thought process in this is that if Bridgewater's in trouble, even though I do think he is one of the best backups in the NFL, who's his check down? Taysom Hill. No, I'm kidding. It's obviously going to be Alvin Kamara. So I think in PPR leagues, I think Kamara is going to have the most consistent stat line. I'll say that out of the New Orleans Saints. I think Thomas is going to end up dropping quite a bit. He wasn't performing great anyway to start with so far this year. It just really worries me because the rest of their wide receiver core, other than Thomas, I mean, you got Ted Ginn, Traquan Smith. I mean, these are fine wide receivers, but there's no real star power there anymore, especially since Ted Ginn's 50 years old. So it really worries me for Thomas, but Kamara, I'm actually pretty okay with. I'm not feeling good about Latavius Murray, though.
Yeah.
No.
I think you guys, for the most part, you guys have a lot of overlap in what you're saying. You're just, so AJ, you're just a little more confident that this could be fine going forward.
Yeah, for Kamara, at least.
It might help. You're saying it might help him more
for Kamara.
With Breeze,
yeah.
For Kamara. That's music to my ears, guys. Both of you guys are saying that Kamara will be all right. I don't know. I agree. He is great in space. I'll be honest with you, the thing that influences me more is every year I watch the Saints versus Chargers QB challenge. And that's not them playing against each other, but you get to see them in a different context. And Teddy was so bad. He was just so inaccurate. Maybe he was nervous, being around, because some of these guys have been with each other, been in the contest before and stuff like that. He hadn't, but I don't know. I just kept thinking, oh, that's the guy we got. And the other thing is that Taysom Hill was amazingly accurate. Amazingly accurate. He was better than Breeze in some instances.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen there, because Bridgewater, from what I've seen, is a completely different quarterback. Obviously the skill level the talent level is different than Breeze, but he's a different style too, where he's, Breeze, has never had the strongest arm, but especially now, like he's not throwing a lot of bombs. It's these, short passes. short but accurate passes, and Michael Thomas just gobbles everything up underneath. So Teddy Bridgewater is not that accurate. Is he going to be able to, get these passes underneath? Because Thomas isn't really, that much of a down the field threat. The other thing I went back and looked with Kamara is, just to clarify what I was saying was, it's not that I'm not worried about Kamara. It's just that I'm a lot more worried about Michael Thomas.
I think we all agree with that.
Yeah. But I went back and looked, and Kamara only had 3 targets for that game. So I don't know if that was just,
You're killing my buzz, man. I was so excited.
And so, because someone pointed that out, because I didn't watch that game, but one of the fantasy, analysts had pointed out that, Bridgewater's got to check down more because he just wasn't doing that. And maybe he felt the pressure to try to, come back against the Rams or whatever. I don't know. But hopefully Sean Payton, hopefully for the sake of Kamara owners, Sean Payton is like, you gotta check the ball down. So I'm glad I don't have a lot of stock in those guys, because I'm probably more worried about those guys in the short term than I am about the Steelers. But it depends on Breeze.
Yeah. Tis true. And the last big change. Well, okay. Were there any other injuries? There was a slew of injuries that stand out to you guys.
Sam Darnold and Trevor Siemian.
Oh well, yeah. I guess Sam Darnold and Trevor Siemian. Yeah. So the Sam Darnold thing is weird. It's who gets mono and.
Yeah, there was a guy that I went to high school with that had mono.
In high school, right?
In high school, yeah.
That's when people get mono.
That's right.
College.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold's only been out of college for like 1 year though, so maybe he got it from his girlfriend or something. I don't know. Maybe she's still in college, but
okay, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, and so I didn't know this about mono. They were saying that because it's kind of like a bad cold, apparently, and get tired and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I mean, is it really can he not play? But in that Monday night game, they were talking about how it actually enlarges your spleen. And so you could basically rupture your spleen and die.
It doesn't just enlarge it. It basically engulfs with blood.
Oh, even better. Yeah.
It becomes like a little blood balloon.
Yeah.
Nice. So
if that busted, you could go, internally bleed to death.
Yeah, that's not good.
Because people have cut their spleen, Who is it? I think it was Luck. He cut his spleen, or maybe it was
I think rupture. I think Luck had a lacerated kidney. But, some players have.
Who's the Chargers guy? The wide receiver.
I think it was
Alec. No.
I think it was. Wasn't it Hunter Henry that had a?
Maybe that's who it was. But anyways, can you imagine if you can get over cutting it, when it's just normal. Imagine cutting it if it's like, anyway, so it's gross. But,
yeah.
Very interesting. And then poor old Siemian, dude. That guy cannot catch a break.
He doesn't look like he should be out there playing quarterback in the NFL.
He doesn't.
He looks like they ran out of quarterbacks and their punter had to come in and play quarterback.
That's a very good description of what but he did marginally well for the Broncos for almost a year, for a whole year.
It's passable. Yeah.
He for like a handful of games. I think you're remembering him more for like maybe a quarter of a season, and then he kind of quickly trailed off after that. But
yeah, my 2 quarterback league, I lost Nick Foles as my second quarterback, so I went out and yay, I got Siemian. He's going to be decent.
That hurts.
So who came in for Siemian?
Luke Falk.
Yeah.
You watch your language. Where's he from? What is his
Washington State? I just remember that because I was watching that game and they said that there's now like 2 Washington State quarterbacks. I think maybe the other one the guy from Jacksonville, Gardner Minshew. Yeah. So
Minshew, what's his name?
Minshew. Yeah.
No, it's not Mishnu. Is it Mishnu?
Yeah, it's Minshew. Sorry.
Minshew. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fu Manchu.
So both of them from Washington State. So Washington State has 2 quarterbacks starting.
Tell me that was going to happen before the season started.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys have any quick thoughts on Jones? Daniel Jones coming in as the starting quarterback for the Giants. I don't necessarily think we need to talk too much about it, but do you have any thoughts? Quick hot takes or thoughts?
Can't be worse than Eli, I don't think. I mean, I think, I've got some stock in Evan Ingram. Hopefully that helps it a little bit. Hopefully, it helps Saquon Barkley. Maybe Sterling Shepard gets a little bit of a boost, even though I wouldn't trust any of those Giants wide receivers. I just can't be worse than Eli.
Yeah, I think to just boost kind of the same thing with all these other backup quarterbacks, running backs and tight ends, passing running backs and the tight ends should get the most value out of this, and wide receivers get hurt the most. I think that's just kind of the main line throughout all the quarterback injuries, in my opinion.
I'm going to give you a name. Cody Latimer. He's going to be, hot take, he's going to be the big pickup. If not next week, the next waiver wire pick. I'm not saying he's going to be like a top 20 wide receiver, but I think he's somebody I've been watching ever since he played on Denver as somebody, a big guy with all kinds of like measurables, just like a strong athletic guy, great route runner who's always been overlooked. I think this is his time to shine, but that's just narrative street for the most part.
Also, he got a concussion.
Is he in concussion protocol?
He's not anymore, but he suffered a concussion during the game, and now he's week to week.
Oh, man. I take that back. No, but I mean, like when he comes back, I think this is somebody to watch. With somebody who's going to be taking a little bit more. I think Daniel Jones is going to be he's going to take more chances. He's going to be a much more of a. Anybody can take more chances than. I mean, there's such a low bar for Eli Manning. If his second read, third read, his third read is basically curl up like a ball, in the fetus position, wait for the line to crumble. Yeah. So, I just think somebody like Cody Latimer could be kind of like how what's his name is now, DK Metcalf. It's just like a big guy who's like not necessarily precision runner, but somebody who can go up and get those 50-50 balls. I don't know, just a guess.
I don't think anybody's going to fight you for him on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
Most places already have him.
Are you serious?
He's my stash. Nah, a couple of places. Well, I'm in so many of these stupid, huge leagues. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Next year, I'm not going to get anything over 14. I'm not going to get in any more IDP.
No, that's a big no from me.
Even 2 quarterback leagues to me are just too much. I'm like, it's too much.
Yeah.
All right. So, finally, let's talk about the sleeper wire.
Anything else to say?
That's all we got to say, folks. Yeah. No, so we started this thing a long time ago. Yeah. AJ Herschel and I, Rotohackers, in which we're not just looking at the waiver wire, we're looking at the sleeper wire. So sleepers, people that you might think would be good to pick up before everybody picks them up, not this week, but looking to the future, looking at who might be the person. If you don't have priority, you got to kind of think 2 steps ahead, 2 moves ahead. Do you guys have anybody like that? Maybe you're just talking about waiver wire. Maybe you're thinking 2 steps ahead.
I probably need a minute on that one.
Okay. Well, so I already mentioned, I think, Cody Latimer. I didn't realize he was in protocol. He had a concussion. But a couple others that I think should be looked at. I know Daniel Jones, not Daniel Jones. We've been talking about, what's his name? Ronald Jones.
Mhm.
The running back for Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to drop him. In your leagues, he's going to be dropped everywhere. I guarantee he had 0 points last week. I have him, I know. I still believe in Rojo. I still believe in the talent. And I actually believe in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not that they're going to, didn't I make a prediction that they were going to go to the Super Bowl or something? Don't believe that anymore. But but look, week 1 was an aberration. I think after week 2 we can see that sure they're not going to, Winston's not going to be Tom Brady precision, or Aaron Rodgers no interceptions, right? He's going to have tons of interceptions, but he's going to get the job done for the most part. What say you guys?
On your player specifically?
Yeah.
I just don't know if he's going to be able to beat out Peyton Barber because, especially in teams where they're trying to figure out which running back's going to play where, they're going to go with the hot hand. And when you look at what Peyton Barber did last week, he got 23 attempts, which is really hard to ignore when someone gets that many touches. So, yeah, even though I believe, yes, Ronald Jones II has talent, I just don't know if Tampa Bay is going to say, okay, yeah, we give a guy 23 touches, we'll switch to the other guy this week. I don't think Tampa's going to do that.
Yeah, I'm still not on the Ronald Jones bandwagon, especially after last week where Peyton Barber just dominated everything. I mean, I don't know. Jones has just been one of those guys that, I mean, he was hyped up. I think he was a 3rd round pick, something like that, out of USC. And, he was hyped up his rookie year. It just didn't work out. He was hyped up. Well, not hyped up as much this year, but people thought like, oh, okay, he's going to be a sleeper. He's going to break out. And it's still just been.
What do they call post-type sleeper or something?
Maybe so. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, I just don't have, I literally have no reason to think that he's going to emerge.
Well, what I would say, if you want a reason, go back and look at his tape. The guy has skill. And the other thing is, look at the tape on Barber. He does not have skill. He just runs straight. The guy he just runs straight. And he runs straight a lot. He got a lot of touches. But when you compare them skill-wise, the coaches, I can't imagine the coaches go back to the tape and say, yeah, Barber's the best.
Well, but I mean, I think to a certain extent, like you just stop looking at tape and you just start looking at like, has the guy produced, and, I don't know what it is, but, there are just guys that, for whatever reason in college that, can make it. And somehow in the NFL, it doesn't work out. I think sometimes it's like, take, for example, like the Patriots versus Steelers game. Like sometimes it comes down just to someone's running style versus the defense and things like that. Like in that game, Sony Michel was doing nothing. I mean, he was just hitting a brick wall over and over. And so they would put Rex Burkhead in, and Burkhead was just able to like burst right up through seams and pick up yards. Now, Rex Burkhead is not a better running back than Sony Michel, but just for what was going on in that game, it just made more sense for them to use him. So,
I agree completely. And I believe that Peyton Barber is going to be much better Rex Burkhead. I think for in certain situations, certain games, they're just going to say, run in this hole, He hits it decently hard enough, but in some of those plays, I guarantee you, Rojo is in the same situation. He takes it to the house. Whereas Barber, he just doesn't have the burst, like he gets to the next level, and he takes a hit, and he's good at getting maybe 1 or 2 extra yards. Rojo would take it to the house. He'd be gone. They wouldn't be able to catch him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's just my theory. What about you guys? Who do you think is going to be somebody people are overlooking, maybe on the waiver wire that people just not talking about, but you think they're going to be talking about him next week?
Sorry, you can go first.
Oh, no, that's fine. You can go ahead if you got somebody.
I know this is one of the funnier ones because I traded before week 1. I think I gave away David Montgomery and Dante Moncrief, and I got Devin Singletary and Will Fuller the fifth, which I was really happy about. And then this week, Frank Gore comes out, 15-year-old Frank Gore, 36-year-old Frank Gore, and comes out and gets 16 carries and scores more than 10 points. That's frustrating to me.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
As a Devin Singletary owner,
Singletary had a score, though.
Yeah, he had a score, but when you look at the number of carries and touches, Gore still got the most production. He still got the most play time. So if the Bills, like we were talking about earlier, want to go with A, the hot hand, B, the experienced hand, Frank Gore is going to be the one they're going to give the ball to the most.
Frank Gore is not the hot hand, though. Frank Gore is not the hot hand. He's just, like you said, the experienced hand. They like the guy. I don't know. It seems like everywhere he goes, everybody raves about how cool, wonderful this man is. They must think he's something because they love slamming him into the defensive line.
There's a reason why he's still been in the league after 15 seasons. And when you look at the carries between Singletary and Gore, yes, Singletary's averaging more yards per carry, but Frank Gore has tripled Devin Singletary's carries over the first 2 weeks.
But that just means the coach are giving it to him. That doesn't mean he's doing anything with it.
Right. But coaches are stubborn. It's kind of like
true. That is true.
It's like if the coach is doing it, like you don't know that they're going to change their mind at some point. And coaches, again, football coaches are as someone who was a sports editor for 10 years, and of course mine was more working with football coaches at the high school and college levels, but I think they're all the same. It's just like they are a different animal, and they get locked into these sort of philosophies when it comes to football, and you just never know what they're gonna do. So I've got a few guys.
Okay.
But
by the way, I just want to say that that's what Sigmund Bloom likes to call the false assumption of rational coaching.
Gotcha. Well, so I've got a few guys.
Okay.
But I know AJ's got to go in just a second, so I was gonna let him, if he had anything else he wanted to end on.
It's just the last thing I kind of want to go with is I'm going to be picking up Joey Sly, kicker for the Panthers, just about everywhere.
I like that.
Just getting in field goal range all the time, even if they're not scoring a bunch of touchdowns.
Did you see that we forgot to mention that what's his name not playing? It's just the quarterback.
Cam may not play.
Cam's not going to play next week.
Well, that's kind of his constant state at this point. Is doubtful, questionable, out.
Oh man, we should have talked about that. All right, well, keep going. Okay, so Sly, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, Sly, and then also I just think one of the three big pickups I think this week are really going to be Mecole Hardman, obviously. Second, I think if you're looking for a tight end, Jason Witten scored touchdowns in 2 consecutive games. I think he could have a lot of goal line targets. And then finally, DJ Chark is one of the few wide receivers still left on the waiver wire who's put up consistent numbers in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I want to pick him up just so that I can name my team.
DJ Chark.
Exactly. Yeah. I got to get him on one team just so I can win.
Glorious.
I think, yeah. Okay. Well, did you need to go, AJ?
All right. I do have to go, but I will talk to you guys later. Jared, I will be watching your picks for sure, though, even though I cannot be here.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right. Yeah. We're probably going to wrap it up soon. Have a good night.
You too.
Have a good night. Okay. So one of the guys we already talked about, and that would be James Washington. Pittsburgh has got to have another receiver to throw to downfield. Surely, it's not going to be Dante Moncrief.
I really think they're going to drop. I think they're going to move on from him.
They should. I mean, like people were talking about like, oh, Dante Moncrief's going to be a sleeper this year. As a Colts fan who
that's right.
saw him in Indy, I'm like, nope. I have been through this before. Dante Moncrief looks like the ultimate NFL wide receiver. If you look at him, he's like, oh man, that guy's going to put up points. And he just never puts it together. And so so it's not going to be him. They're going to, if they don't move on from him, he's not going to catch the ball regardless. So I think Washington does have a pretty good chance. I think if he's not already owned in 12-team leagues, he's a great pickup in 12-team leagues. And if you've even, I think he even probably deserves a spot on your bench in a 10-team league.
Well, would you pick him or Chark up? If you had, like, say you have like 6th pick or whatever.
Chark, just because he's producing.
Yeah.
The Jacksonville situation is messier because, this guy, Mishnu, whatever his name is gonna, however you pronounce that.
Minshew.
Yeah.
Fu Minshew.
Yeah. He's going to be quarterback for half the year. And then, it looks like Nick Foles will be able to come back after that. So I don't know if Foles will have the same kind of chemistry with Chark. We'll see. Conley's in there. Dede Westbrook is in theory better than at least one of those guys. So, but he's not getting targets. So I've dropped Dede in all.
The only reason I haven't is because I know you like him and you offered me a trade.
I'm not picking him up on maybe when it gets close to Foles coming back, but no, I would pick Chark because he was actually touted as he got, like, I remember when he came out that he was getting a lot of buzz, so he's talented. But, it's just like always the same story with Jacksonville receivers. You're never sure who's going to be, like, ever since Allen Robinson left or went down, he got hurt and went down and then left. It's like, who's the number one here?
Yeah.
Who
takes on the mantle?
Right. Like any one of 3 guys could be the number one guy, and the others could be 2 or 3 on any given week. So it's really hard to trust Jacksonville. But if you just need him as like a bench wide receiver to maybe plug in once in a while, or you pick him up and see if he keeps doing this. But it's hard for me to trust it. So a quarterback, since we're since we're needy for quarterbacks, a lot of Josh Allen always gets a lot of love from the experts because he does have a high ceiling because he can run. He's also very erratic at throwing the ball, and so you don't know what you're going to get. I think if you need a quarterback, it might be worth taking another stab at Jimmy G to see what he comes up with, because he had a good week last week. He's got a great tight end. Deebo Samuel has kind of emerged as a good number 1 wide receiver.
That's another good sleeper pickup.
Yeah, well, I don't
probably
know.
Not a sleeper pickup. Yeah. A lot of people are going to pick them up.
Yeah, he's gonna be a big pickup this week.
Deebo.
So they like to throw the ball to their running backs. Mostert, had a lot of catches last week. Kyle Shanahan, I saw him in Atlanta when he was with the Falcons. He loves to throw to the running backs. So I know Jimmy G had a horrendous preseason. I think he threw like 3 straight interceptions in practice at one point on 3 straight throws. But when he came over to San Francisco, he was getting a lot of buzz. If you need a quarterback, I think he's probably worth taking a shot on.
Yeah, did I ever mention I know his cousin?
No, I didn't know that.
I used to work with his cousin. I was looking at her Facebook, and she's like talking about, like, there's this guy who looks like, she keeps talking about Jimmy Polo. They call him Jimmy Polo. My cousin Jimmy Polo. They're all hanging out with Jimmy Polo, and he went to local high school here, Arlington Heights. Yeah.
Okay, that's right. I forgot he was from Illinois. Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's a sharp take, dude. I do think that the distance he grew from week 1 to week 2 caught my attention.
Right.
Like he made the team better. He made better throws. I think you're right. He needed some time to start gelling. He hasn't even really quite gotten into the groove yet. Probably by week 3, he will look like everybody expected him to look. Maybe, or maybe he just sucks. I don't know.
Right. I mean, you don't know for sure, but like if you've and I'm not saying like, replace Lamar Jackson with him, but if if you're someone who needs a quarterback, if you lost Ben or Breeze or whoever, I think Jimmy G is worth, a shot, because you think about it, he had, I'm just looking back at, how much he's actually gotten to start. And so last year he had,
like 4 starts.
he had 3 games. So
3.
he got hurt in
In
his
the
third
fourth.
game, in his third. Yeah, in his third for San Francisco. So, and the year before that he had,
Like 1.
well, he had, he came in for like the final 6 games of the year. And so, but then, so he's got some trouble with interceptions, looking through some of that stuff like that's enough to give you some pause. But again, like if you're desperate, I think he'll be more consistent than a Josh Allen, who's going to have maybe a higher ceiling, but you just don't know if he's going to like connect for a touchdown or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been a huge Josh Allen proponent. I actually am starting him in one league, in my 2 quarterback league.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Another good pickup might be Dalton. I know he's like the quarterback everybody hates to like loves to hate, but this year's looking good, man. His new offense is hot.
I started him in a league last week, so I was ahead of the curve on Andy Dalton.
Nice.
Mostly out of desperation. I had no quarterback in that league. I just needed a guy. I didn't trust Stafford against the Chargers. I didn't trust Rivers on the road, and so I ended up starting Dalton, and I think he got me 19 points and something, which is
solid. It's solid.
And I won 118, 111. And so, he gave me just enough to give me a win. So, I mean, they're not running the ball well with Mixon. They're having to throw a lot. He's got Boyd and Ross and Eifert until Eifert inevitably gets hurt.
Yeah. But Eifert caught a touch.
He caught a touchdown. And
he's spreading it around. He's gonna have Green back soon, maybe.
Hopefully, yeah, it'll probably be October sometime. But he's gonna get AJ Green back. He's not a guy for sure that I would start every week, but
I'm starting him every week in one league. I've won one, lost one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you're gonna get. I think he's a guy that you don't want to rely on every week, but you could rely on him a good bit if you've got another guy to kind of alternate when he's got a bad matchup. So, I think he's worth, taking a chance on in some of those.
That new Taylor offense, man.
That's true. Yeah. It's a step up above the Marvin Lewis approach.
Oh, of course, such a low bar. All right, real quick, let's talk about waiver wire defenses. This guy wants to know, thanks for tuning in. Richard, feel free to hit the like button if you're tuning in on, you got to be tuning in on YouTube. Hit that like button. That'll help make me feel better about my life. So that's a good question. If you had the Ravens defense, would you drop them would you drop them to pick up the Cowboys?
For this week, for sure.
Week. You would drop the Ravens though?
Well, here's the thing. Like if you can afford to have, both spots, then you probably want to keep the Ravens. But it kind of depends on your situation too. Like if you're in an 0-2 hole, and you need a win this week, then you need to just go ahead and do that. But if you can, I would keep both because I don't really trust Dallas for the season. But the Ravens are playing the Chiefs this week. You don't want to start them against the Chiefs. Yeah. The Cowboys are playing the Dolphins. So
it's just my luck. I have the Cowboys everywhere. Remember, I told you at the beginning, before the season started, I thought the Cowboys would be a great pickup because they had 3 really good games, so I went out and I picked them up everywhere. But it'd be just my luck that everybody get so much fantasy goodness from the Miami Dolphins, and then it comes my turn, and I get a pumpkin. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you never know for sure, but man, if ever there was a situation set up for, I mean, the NFL is far more unpredictable than college, but Miami is like a college team, it's like, it's like a school that you schedule to come in to let your team, beat up on them in the first couple of weeks of the season and to get the home crowd fired up. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to drop Baltimore if you got another spot that you can, on your bench that you can pick up Dallas for this week.
Because for the long run, the Ravens after the Chiefs, they have the Browns, Steelers, the Bengals. That's a nice little 3-game.
Yeah. So I would say try to find a way to keep both, unless you've just got a super stacked bench.
I think the Chargers would be if the Chargers are anywhere out on your bench, grab the Chargers. Not because they're a great defense, but because they're playing Miami next week.
Yeah,
not next week, but the next week.
Right.
So it'd be a good preemptive pickup. This week they're playing.
They're playing Houston this week.
Houston, so it's not a bad pickup for this week either.
Yeah. And I get to the point where I start trying to do that. Like I start trying to look ahead, to pick up a defense 2 weeks early, or if I'm gonna stream a quarterback, I'm looking 2 weeks at a time, because a lot of people just play week to week and don't think about 2 weeks ahead. So,
well, and that is the nice thing about Josh Allen is his schedule.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me bring it up. But I remember that he has an amazing schedule. Let's see.
Well, he'll get the Patriots twice, so that's not great. Easy,
and he never does good against them.
No.
But so he plays the Giants.
Yeah.
No, he played the Giants. Plays the Bengals. Then he has to play the Patriots. Then he plays the Titans. And then the Dolphins. He gets the Dolphins. He actually gets the Dolphins twice, I think.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of, like, if you've got, because a lot of people are gonna, I think, be dropping him, just to add a running back in there who's kind of he's not really a sleeper, because I mean he was at one point being drafted as like a 6th round pick, but I think a lot of people are gonna, of course, bail out on Kenyon Drake because he's like everyone else in Miami doing absolutely nothing. But there's already been talk of him getting traded. So if he stays with Miami, he's probably going to be completely worthless for the whole season. But if he gets traded, he could potentially, go in. I mean, he's a pretty good running back.
Where would you see him going, though, that he would be of value?
That's the thing. That's the thing. It might depend on an injury, or he might go into a situation where, he would be part of a committee. But I mean, anywhere would be far better than Miami. And I think he's good enough that, in some situations he could end up being the starting guy, especially with an injury, but, potentially even without an injury.
Yeah, that's true. He has skill for sure. He's one of the better cutters of his rookie class, but something's wrong though. Like nobody wants to play him. It doesn't matter what coach comes in, they do not want to play him. So something's telling me, like, I don't know, maybe he's just a real big butthole or something. I don't know.
I don't know if he's I'm not sure if they think that he's too fragile to handle a heavy workload or what, but but he had a stretch towards the end of, I think it was the 2017 season, where Damian Williams went down and they played him for a few games as a featured running back, and he just tore it up. And then
it was
it wasn't last year. It was, I think,
it was when they traded away
Ajay.
As soon as they traded away Ajay, he jumped Damian Williams as because he was third in line and he jumped Damian.
Right. Yeah, no, I know. Well, they were splitting.
They were kind of splitting, right? Yeah,
for a little while.
Yeah.
And
he had a great run.
He did. And so everybody thought like, oh, he's gonna, he's the featured guy now. But even before that season ended, they already went back to a committee with him and Williams. And so that's why I never really understood, like, then going into, I think last year, they were, some of these guys like Brad Evans and some of the others like, oh yeah, Kenyon Drake this year. Like, I don't know. They already went back to that committee, and they did. They stuck with the committee. So,
and did you see who's the guy who's backing him up? Who actually playing more snaps? Or
Kalen Balazs.
Kalen Balazs ducked when we. So Fitzpatrick he's in trouble. Gives him a little dump off, and Kalen Balazs ducks under the ball.
No, I did not see that.
He must have thought somebody was, why would he pass to me? I don't know. But that's how bad they are. That's how bad Balazs is.
That's fantastic. No,
you got to look that up, man, because I was like, I mean, when you say that they're not an NFL team,
right?
They're ducking balls out there. All right.
So before we go though, yeah. I've got one for you. Is who, after 2 weeks, are you legitimately, maybe a couple of guys you're legitimately worried about? Like not just like, oh, I'm kind of concerned about him. Like you're convinced I've made a mistake, or either, or you're like, oh, I'm glad I didn't draft that guy. I was right.
Well, Bell is the first one that comes to mind. I'm like, thank God I didn't draft any Bell.
But he's done well. But he's done well the first 2 weeks.
Not for a first round. Not for a first round pick. He's had like most of his points have come off of receptions. He's had barely any. He's had like 12 points a week.
No, he's had. Let's see. Let me tell you.
He hasn't been in the end zone yet, has he?
Week one he did. So,
he did. Okay.
So week 1 he had 20.2, and last week or this week he had 15.9.
Okay. All right. Well, he did better than I thought. I don't have him anywhere, so
I've got him in one. I've got him in one league.
But I'm still glad I didn't draft him. I mean, with everything going on, he's either going to get hurt with all this work, or I mean, he's just not doing that great.
Yeah, I'm thinking of. I've only got him in one league. It's a $50 league. But what really worries me? Well, okay, I think he's got New England next week, and they're gonna just shut him down, knowing that the Jets are not going to be able to pass. Then they've got a bye week, and so then automatically in week 4 you're already without your star guy. And then after that, I mean, you may still have 2 or 3 more weeks without Sam Darnold. So that kind of worries me for Bell. I'm off to a 2-0 start in that league, and it's only a $50 league. So if I have to keep him, it's not the worst thing. And plus, I didn't draft him in that league. It was the one where, I got him and Julio Jones in exchange for Kamara and Godwin. Although, now that deal's looking better now that Kamara's gone down. Or not Kamara, but Breeze has gone down. And so, the Saints offense is, could be handicapped. So, yeah. So I didn't draft him. And so I don't have, as much investment in him. So my guy,
I know who, wait, real quick. Okay. You say your guy, then I'll come with my guy.
So one of my guys that I am glad that I only had a couple of shares of him, traded one, and then actually in that same league that I have Le'Veon, I have Kerryon Johnson. And Kerryon Johnson, he's good, but Detroit is probably using the biggest running back committee of any team right now. They're getting carries to CJ Anderson. They're getting them to Procise. They're getting them to a 4th running back. And so Kerryon's getting like a dozen carries and a catch or 2. And he was fortunate that he had.
That Lions cut bait on CJ.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's only got 2 guys to compete with. So
I wouldn't worry too much about him. I don't have him very many places. I wish if you had him, I would definitely trade you for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's talented, and so far the Lions are doing, moving the ball a little bit better, but they're just feeding so many guys. It's just all about it's all about the workload. So yeah, I'm worried about him.
I want to go out and get him. I think that's a little bit more working out the offense. They just cut bait on CJ, so he's got to who are the other guys? I've never heard of these other guys.
Well, no, one of them was CJ Anderson. Are you talking about they cut him or Procise? Because they have
did I say Procise? They cut CJ Anderson.
Did they?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, it's on Rotoworld. I would say yeah, I get where you're coming from, but I really think I haven't seen anything that worries me about because CJ Anderson's such a mo, you just kind of Joe Schmo.
Oh yeah, they cut him 4 hours ago. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well,
so I don't know. That might help your outlook on him. My guy, I am so glad. Now some of this, so two guys. Now, who knows though what's going to happen? But Carson and what's his name for the Steelers? Carson and
Connor.
Carson and Connor. I am so glad I don't have any shares of them. They can be on somebody else's team. Hopefully, I play a lot of people that have them going forward.
I mean, Carson. The problem with him, the thing that's worrying me about him is the fumbles, because he fumbled twice. But he's still getting the lion's share of the carries over Penny. And so unless Penny overtakes him, I mean, Carson had 21 points the first week, and then
I just feel like that was so fluky. I mean, touchdowns are fluky anyways, but he had decent share. But now they're working in Procise. They're working.
No, not in. That's we're going back to Detroit again.
No, Procise is with.
Or who's the guy in? Who's the guy in Detroit? That's because the Detroit picked up. I get my Seahawk running back names mixed up. Who we got here?
I might be mixed up too.
He may still be. I can't remember. I'll have to look and see the box score for the Lions because they got one of the old. I think it's McKissick that's in Detroit.
Oh yeah, McKissick. Yeah, but dude, he was like third string.
Right. Right. But if we go back to, let's look and see we'll look and see what the touches. Yeah. So basically what they did at the end of that, game with the Steelers is they worked in Procise basically because Chris Carson had fumbled twice. So they kept
you. But see, I've been in this story before, man. You can't even remember what the guy's name was who was the Chris Carson of last year. Next year you're not going to remember. But for this story, you're not going to remember Chris Carson's name.
No, Chris Carson was the Chris Carson of last year. So
no, he took over. He took over for I can't remember his name.
See, you've forgotten the guy's name. So again, we go back, we don't have to argue on this. This is Carson had in 14 games last year, 1,151 yards, 9 rushing touchdowns, and then he had 163. So that was in 14 games. Down the stretch, especially, this is what he did. So he had. Pull it up. So yeah. So the last 4 games of the regular season, 90, and I'm not even going to get into the receiving yards, but 90 yards and a touchdown, 119 and a touchdown, 116 and 2 touchdowns, 122 and a touchdown. So it's not like Carson is some flash in the pan. I mean, he may the fumbles are worrisome. The fumbles are worrisome because that could end up costing him his job, but he ran well last year. So he's done it over a season, so it's not. Maybe he doesn't pan out, but I don't think so far. Like Penny hasn't done anything
to score a touchdown.
Yeah, he scored a touchdown, but I mean, he
ran pretty well.
Let's see, what did he do? Let's see. Let's go back to this one. All right, so
it starts with R. Who was that running back? He was what everybody was talking about him. Like everybody's talking about Carson now. But
yeah, so ProSize had 2 carries for 7 yards at the end of the game. They were basically giving him the ball because they didn't trust Carson with it at the end. But the difference right now is so Carson had 15 touches, which is kind of like, a lot of running backs are kind of in that 15 touch range. You're not getting the 60 or not the 60, but the 20 to 25 touches are a lot more rare. If you're Ezekiel Elliott or Dalvin Cook or somebody like that.
Yeah.
But that's still like 15. If you're getting like 15, that's pretty solid nowadays. So we'll see what happens with Carson. The Steelers have a good run defense. I kind of figured he was going to have sort of a down week last week. This week, it's going to be interesting with the Saints because the Saints have
they're kind of a funnel offense. Yeah. They funnel everything to the outside.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I think he'll benefit from, if the Saints have trouble, the game's in Seattle. So if the Saints have trouble moving the ball, then it may be a case where, Carson, the whole Seattle running game, they don't end up with too many yards, but you get a touchdown or 2 out of them. But then, after that, he's got some tough games in there. He's got, he doesn't have a bye until week 11, but his schedule is after the Saints next week, he gets Arizona, that's not daunting. Then he gets the Rams. That's tough. At Cleveland, Baltimore will be tough, but then he gets the Falcons, the Bucks, and then the 49ers. So
Thomas Rawls. Do you remember Thomas Rawls?
Oh, I do remember Thomas Rawls. Yeah,
Thomas Rawls was everybody's favorite quarterback. But I guess I think you're pretty much right, but I think what you're overlooking is how fickle, the wrong assumption of logical coaching. That this coaching staff, it's like they see every running back as the very same person, and as soon as one guy messes up, put in the next guy. It's like if you're not beast mode, you're just another running back.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that they've been that way, but ProSize can't handle the load. I mean, he can be a passing down back, he can be a third down back, but he can't handle the full load. So it's got to be either Carson or Penny. And
I guarantee you.
But to this point, I mean, like the gap between them has been so big, and but basically like Penny's got to close it in order for them to be able to do that, because last year, like he just struggled, like he just wasn't getting anything. So if Penny can close it, maybe, but he's got to be able to do that consistently.
I think you're right. I mean, it comes down to whether or not he has the skill. I haven't looked at any tape on Penny, so I'm kind of talking about this blind, assuming that Penny is a skilled player just because of how much they loved him last year. They talked to him.
Yeah. He was a first round pick.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a first round pick, and so they gave him every opportunity to be the guy because they didn't want to start a 7th round guy in Carson over, your first round pick, because it makes your GM look bad. But they basically, like, the gap was just significant enough that they finally had to do that. But, second year, maybe he closes the gap. So I've tried to have Penny, where I have Carson in case there's an injury or something like that. But
yeah,
Seattle's just got to run the ball. And so I think there's going to be, there's going to be points there for someone. So
yeah, I agree. I guess it comes down to being burnt so often. Like Raw, man. The reason I forgot his name is because it brings up so much pain.
I had forgotten him too, but yeah, he was the guy that where when Lynch started to slow down and they didn't really have a line that could create as much room for him, Rawls was shiftier. And so, so he did have like sort of a little high there for a while because he was able to, run away from the defenders that Lynch couldn't get away from. So
I loved watching Rawls play.
Yeah.
And then, and just watching them just take this no-name dude Carson. Maybe it has something to do with his name, dude. Carson's such a boring name.
Yeah.
And it's like Carson comes in and like totally they just went with him. They just went with him. And actually Rawls had a little bit of a fumbling problem too.
He did. I remember that actually. Yeah. So yeah, I've got one of my teams where I have Chris Carson and Carson Wentz. So
you got Carson.
Chris Carson Wentz. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Remember that late night guy named Carson?
Yeah, Carson Daly. he was they put him on at like 1 a.m., when like if you just happen to be like sick and up, like throwing up, and you happen to like, want to sit by the television.
You talk about a schmo, man.
He's a schmuck. He's a schmuck. Yeah. Carson Daly was not the least bit funny. He ended up going on to like the Today Show or something. So
he came from like that. All right. Well, I think that does it for tonight. Thank you. Oh man, we went over again.
It's inevitable. You can just pencil in like an hour and 10 minutes each time.
Yes, thank you, Richard, for joining us. Thank you, whoever else is tuning in now. We want to say, go out there, and I would like to leave you. I was thinking about this. I'd like, instead of leaving with some gimmicky thing, I'd like to just say, it's a prayer for you. It's a prayer for me. Be Zen-like in fantasy football, because it's sometimes completely aggravating, because it reminds us of how little control we have over life. And there's so much less control over our fantasy football team.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
But sometimes you just go 16-2 and
16-1.
16-1. 16-1. And it's a pretty nice feeling, huh?
It is a pretty nice feeling. Yeah. It's if you get out to that early start, you get out to a good early start, and it is so much nicer than digging out of a hole, because I did that last year. I had holes to dig out of last year, and it's tough, but basically you need to get to like 8-6 typically is like about the minimum to get you into the playoffs. Sometimes you got to be 9-5 to get that fourth playoff spot. But if you go 2-0, then the way you can look at it is like, if I go 500 the rest of the way, I've got a shot at the playoffs. So, but you think about it, like if you go 0-2, then you got to go 8-4, probably minimum the rest of the way just to get in. So
yeah.
It makes all the difference in the world.
Oh man, but it can change. Also, though, if you are 0-2, just remember, like, look at what happened this week. The league changes so fast. You can get out. You can get out of that hole. It's not as fun, but you can. You just be shrewd on the waiver wire. Think 2 or 3 steps ahead of everybody else.
Or 2 or 3 weeks ahead, because you have to start planning. Like you can't afford, like you can't just win like one game. You got to start looking like, okay, how can I win next week? And
drop those guys you're in love with. Drop them to get the immediate. Who's going to help you immediately,
right?
Or who will help you next week?
It is a different style of play. You really have to. That's probably maybe the biggest skill that you have to have with fantasy football, is to be willing to adapt.
That's
and
good.
If you get locked into anything, you are screwed, because every week there's some new problem. There's an injury. Your guy is facing a defense that he's not going to do well against, or whatever. So you gotta be adaptive.
Yep. So be Zen and be adaptive. And we leave you with that. Good night.
Good night.